So good afternoon, February the 22nd, 2016. This is CISG113, Section 1, Information Security and Privacy. Today is day number 9 into week number 5. So let's get started. Welcome back and very good afternoon. This rainy day, a little bit cold. This is the beginning of week number 5. If you look at the widescreen, it's the indications of the new milestone. It's the milestone for SRL, self-regulated learning. So we've gone through the first milestone, which is inquiry-based learning. Now we are in the second milestone, self-regulated learning. Well, this means we're in the second learning contract. Okay? Yes, I prefer to hold it like this. Okay? We're in the second learning contract. It does not mean we're going to say goodbye to IBL. Actually, we have to continue the learning acquired from IBL in the second learning contract. But before we get started, I would like to make sure you know where you are. So we need to go back a little bit to the beginning of the semester. So let's try doing a little bit of this to the beginning of the semester. So at the beginning of the semester, you see that I've introduced to you the Learning Center syllabus. So let's go to the Learning Center syllabus. We're interested mostly in the schedule of the Learning Center syllabus now. So let's flip over, fast forward to the schedule. So let's take a look at the weeks 1, 2, 3, and 4 and see if we have already accomplished what we are supposed to accomplish in the first 4 weeks. So in the first 4 weeks, we helped you to understand the course in the context of the 3 important course learning objectives. And we're going to help you accomplish the challenge of transitioning yourself from being a taught-to-learn student to a learn-to-learn student in a matter of 4 months, actually less than 4 months. And the means we're going to use to help you to do these transitions in the context of this course is through 3 important learning contracts. The first contract with the theme inquiry-based learning has just been over as of this week. We're stepping into the second learning contract, SRL, self-regulated learning. And then after 3 weeks' time, when we finish the second learning contract, we will go to the third learning contract with the theme problem-based learning. If you look at the evolutions of these 3 learning contracts, the first learning contract helps you to build up yourself with a specific ability to question into something. And that is what we call IBL. And we use a specific process to do it according to the practice you have gone through in writing your journal. It's the OIA process. You need to practice thinking, critical thinking method through the observations, interpretations, and applications. Okay, we introduced to you this in week number 1, and then starting with week number 2, 3, and 4, we helped you to learn the fundamental modules in all the GE course under Information Technologies and Knowledge Society, and these include introductions to IT, the context of technology, and the context of technology, making the best use of information. In the context of the Knowledge Society, comparing it with the Industrial Society we got through in the last century. Well, a little bit. And then we introduced to you the ethics. Basically, the online ethics and social responsibility concept. In particular, we introduced to you the CSR context that could be framed by organizations like university and other mega organizations like the multinational organizations with a local touch. And then we also introduced to you the idea of the digital divide in the 21st century and what you as an individual can do about it through a very interesting examples of service learning
which is played by the individual students, as well as the faculty members at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. And finally, last week, after your holidays, you come back to learn something about the information literacy stuff. You understand the 5 major stages of doing information literacy is to recognize that you have a need for information. You can access relevant informations. You have to evaluate those informations to filter out those that you do not want. And then you can use the information with the credit of the sources. That is the ethics stage. And after that, we also introduced to you the process approach to do information literacy, the discovery approach, better say the discovery approach. D for define the need, I for inquire about the sources, S for search more, C for collect those informations that are relevant, O for organizations, V for verifications, E for expressions, writing a report, and R for reflection. Okay? After the discovery process, information literacy, we also introduced to you the nature of a research assignment. So how do you make things meaningful for you, particularly those learning activities which involve a lot of the observations, a lot of the interpretations, as well as the applications. So after the first 4 weeks, you are awakened that you have to submit the artifacts for the learning contract number 1 at the beginning of last week, and you know that you have a lot of work to do in the week, a lot. But I'm sorry, it's not the homework assigned last week. If you look at the syllabus, it's the homework assigned from day 1 of the semester. If you look at the schedule, we have 3 collections of your assignment, and we just gone through 1, which is scheduled on February the 20th, 2016. That is the time to collect the artifacts you finish after doing learning contract 1. And if you look at the schedule, the second time we're going to collect the artifact from you for learning contract number 2 is actually February, not February, I think it's March the 12th. So if you look at the submission time here, which is given on day 1, okay, you can see that the second time we are going to collect the artifact from you, it's week number 7, which is going to end on March the 12th, which is a Saturday, and normally is extensible to March the 13th, the Sunday, okay, just like what you got through this past weekend. And the last time we're going to, that means the final time, we're going to collect an artifact from you is for learning contract number 3, which is going to be collected in week number 10, in the week ending with April the 2nd, extensible to April the 3rd. So in other words, these are not assignments assigned at the beginning of last week. These are assignments assigned from the beginning of the semester. And you got to be aware of the collection day, the day when you have to submit the artifacts. In other words, your 4 weeks time, if you include 2 weeks of holidays for the first learning contract, 6 weeks time to prepare 6 artifact items for the first learning contract. If you do it this way, it's 1 week per item. Okay? So you have to be sensitive to the amount of time you do have to prepare for the artifacts. And of course, you have to say that we need time to learn, right? That's why I need to make sure that you understand that you have 3 more weeks to the second collections time from now, which is the 22nd of February to March the 12th. Okay, that is the second learning contract. And for the third learning contract, another 3 weeks. In other words, 6 weeks from now, which is on April the 2nd, you have another set of artifacts. So you've done your first learning contract. So let's take a look at the schedule. Yes.
Does the topic of the second journal have any requirement?
The second journal, that means in the second learning contract? And yes, that's what I'm telling you now. Would you please be patient in a minute? All right, so if you look at the schedule, okay, if you look at the schedule from the syllabus, we are getting into week number 5. So week number 5, 6, and 7 represent the 3 weeks in which you have to do your second set of learning artifacts for second learning contract. If you look at the topics here, you can see that the topics in the second learning contracts include the proper topics for the course: privacy and encryptions, web attacks and internet vulnerability, ethical issues of hacking and cracking, and also information fraud. So the 4 rows of topics represent the rows in which you're going to select your questions to do your second journal. And actually, each one of these represent one specific week, okay? So, before we get into the second learning contract stuff, if you look at the syllabus here, okay, you can see on the right-hand side tells you something about the coursework expected for each one of you. The first week, online learning journal on Moodle's site, but you do not need to submit them until the collection day. The second, the third, and the fourth week, online learning journals and discussion forums on your Moodle site. That means these are the fundamental learning activities you need to keep up with the schedules of learning. Alright, so with that in mind, I hope that you understand it is on the weekly learning activity that is the foundations to build up what you have to produce by the end of the learning contract. That means you need to get the artifacts ready on the road to the second collection day. So having said that, let's go back to, well, allow me not to use it like that. Having said that, let's go back to the website. Today, I have given you the message for week number 5. In this particular message, I officially say it's the beginning of the second learning contract, and I invite you to take a good look at this second learning contract and make sure that you know the time you have in the second learning contract. From today, February the 22nd to March the 12th, represent 3 weeks. You have 3 weeks time to get ready for your learning in the second learning contract and then produce the artifacts you need. The second learning contract carries the theme of self-regulated learning, SRL. There are many interpretations for SRL, but in the context of this course, in the context of our learning purposes, I have selected 4 areas of task management, which I would like you to put into practice in your second learning contract, based on what you have picked up in the first learning contract. Now, before I elaborate on the 4 important areas, let's ask the questions. What have you picked up from completing the first learning contract? I would like you to think along with me and to help yourself to resolve some of the confusions or difficulty in understanding the nature of the assignment. First of all, learning contract number 1. If you want to look back on what you did, you need to understand the theme is IBL, inquiry-based learning. Put it simple, it's an opportunity for you to question into something. Now, what exactly is that something you would like to question into? You need to go back to the 4 reading list that we have introduced to you from the beginning of the semester up to last week. So we have 4 reading lists. So let's go to the 4 reading lists. So let's come to here. The reading lists are included at the beginning of each Moodle block. So the first reading list here includes 2 questions. What is information security? What is information privacy? If you choose a topic from the first week's reading list, you have 2 possible questions. We call each of such questions 2 topics for you to choose. If you don't like this week's reading list, you can go to the second week's reading list. Here you have another 2 questions. In the second week, we have 2 other questions. One is information technology. One is knowledge society. Okay? If you still don't like the 2 questions in the second week, you can go to the third week's reading list. Here we have 3 questions. What is ethics in the information age? What is social responsibility in the information age? What is digital divide in the 21st century? These have already given you how many choices? 7 choices in the first 3 reading lists. And finally, last week, after the Chinese New Year's holiday, when you come back, we would like to help you to understand 2 more questions. What is information literacy? What is information competency? Now your job, in order to accomplish the learning artifacts of the first learning contract, is to select 1 topic, 1 question out of these 9 questions that are offered to you through the first 4 reading lists. And once you have chosen your questions here, that is your umbrella topic, underneath you need to select at least 1 source given under the specific questions. And after you select that source, you need to use that source to take notes. Okay? That's the reasons why we asked you which reading list you have chosen to select a topic. With 1, with 2, with 3, or with 4. After you have designated your reading list, you select 1 question underneath your reading list. For example, you select what is information literacy. That is your question. After you select a question, you need to select 1 source from immediately under the question. And once you've selected that source, you can start taking notes. And the notes taken has to be structured in the critical thinking format of O, representing observations, I, representing interpretations, and A, representing applications of lessons learned. After you have taken the notes, you should have the idea of what questions are you dealing with, or what specific learning do you want to extract from that specific choice that you have taken. And so we ask, do you have a personalized questions? And normally, if you do have a personalized question, it's time for you to write down your personalized question and use the keywords in your personalized question to further explore what exactly you want to achieve. And so, under these circumstances, you need to provide 2 more sources to support the explorations of your personalized questions. And that is when you can use the Google or the library's databases to support the explorations of your personalized questions. And so you finish your journal. Okay? Once you finish the journal, the second thing you need to do is to share as much as you want from your journal with your learning partner in the form of an online peer discussion forum. And that is the second important activity you need to go through in the IBL learning process. The first is journaling. Now the question many of you may ask is, why do we need to do so many items? We need to write a journal. We need to talk about our journal with our learning partner. We need to write a report based on the journal topic. Looks like we are repeating those things. It's just like a waste of time. Well, if you look at it this way, it's quite reasonable to share your feelings. But the idea is doing something like this. If you were a reporter, and if you were assigned to report on a piece of news, you need to go to the scenes where the news happened to gather information. Gathering the information does not mean that you have the organizations of the facts gathered to report it yet. So writing a journal is just like gathering the information. It's not in the stage of being organized. That's why if you look at the score allocations for your journal, it's just 4 points. Okay, even though you seem to have done a lot, the O, the I, and the A, because these are the guidelines, they help you to structure your thinking. So you have to understand what skills you can earn for yourself after completing the journal. If you want an answer from the teacher, I can tell you, it's a very good practice for you to think OIA. That it's an objective thinking with facts as the basis. But with the facts scanner, it does not mean a lot if you do not make the best use of the facts. And the first thing you need to do is to share that with someone who has the knowledge to give you feedback. And your learning partner is the person you choose to give you this feedback. And with the particular perspective of your learning partner, and with also with the work you did to create a journal, that is the second step in picking up learning from your topic chosen. So the progressions from journaling to discussion forum is basically a step in product development. What is the product you're going to produce at the end of this work? It's your blog. It's your personal knowledge. What is the intermediate product you can produce for people to read? It's the report that you and your partners have produced for referencing purposes. What are the steps you use? It's the discussions. It's the exchange of views. Then what is the first thing you need to do? You need to choose a topic. And you need to dig out something, relevant information on the topic, so that you can share. You can turn that topic into your own knowledge. So from journaling to discussions to report writing to blog posting is a process of coming closer to the 6:30 o'clock news. Okay? When the anchorman reads the news that you gather, to read the particular report that you wrote, you have accomplished the process of turning some bits and pieces of data into relevant information, so that when the anchorman reported, he could turn it into some advice for people. All right? So these are the meanings of the different artifacts that you need to do. And in the process of doing that, you learn the skills of information literacy. You learn the skills of discussions online. You learn the skill of communications. You learn the skills of writing. You learn the skill of summarization. All of these skills are involved in the report writing process, in the blog writing process. And so, we've just given you learning contract number 1 to learn to pick up those necessary skills so that you can carry forward those skills into the second learning contract, which is self-regulated learning. Now, allow me to introduce to you what are the 4 important areas of skills you need to add on top of your IVL skills that I just mentioned. Self-regulated learning requires each one of you to understand the goals of your learning activity. In other words, why you are doing what you are doing. For example, in the second learning contract, if you look at the specific artifacts you need to produce, they are very similar to the first learning contract. Again, you need to produce 6 artifacts. Again, out of the 6 artifacts, you need to produce a personal journal. Again, you need to conduct pair-wise online discussions with your learning partner. But this time, beside your only learning partner in your peer, if you look closely on what is required in your second learning contract, you need to have a team. In other words, with your pair, you need to find another pair to form a team. A team is composed of 2 pairs. In other words, besides the learning partner in your pair, you also need to engage your team members in a discussion. It's going to be exciting, but it's also going to be very complicated in a sense because you have so many people in your team, at least 4, okay? And then, what you need to do now, take a look at the statement here. Task analysis, it's a key area that you need to learn in second learning contract. what is meant by task analysis. You need to understand what the assignment is all about and what needs to be done. I've just given you the answer. You need to produce a similar set of artifacts just like in the first learning contract, but this time you need to use the information list, the reading list for week number 5, week number 6, and week number 7. Okay? These form the core topics of this course. And then you need to ask this question: how much time do I have to do it? So you need to understand the timeline. Today is officially the first day of the second learning contract, and as I mentioned earlier, March the 12th is the day when you have to submit it. It's extensible to March the 13th. So you have exactly 3 weeks time. So with 3 weeks time, you need to go through the 3 reading lists, okay? And you need to select a topic for yourself out of the 3 reading lists. Fortunately, you just need to do one topic. Remember, out of the 3 reading lists, you just need to select one topic. And so your learning partner is obliged to select one topic too. Again, the 2 of you in your pair cannot select the same topic. All right? Now, you're going to have a team pair. So, another complication comes in. The 2 pairs in your team, okay? When pair A has selected 2 topics, pair B cannot select the same 2 topics. All right? So that means in your team, when you have 2 pairs, each person in the team is going to have a different topic because you're going to learn from one another. So that is the challenge. So, oh, sir, in that case, what about the discussions? Oh, you can think about this. Each person must engage in the online pair discussions with your learning partner and also involve at least one other team member to get in touch with your discussions. So you can think about the interconnections of ideas in the pair online discussion forum. Or better say, this time is a team online discussion forum. So look at that. You need to know the timeline. You need to break down the task into the manageable part. I've just given you an example in the discussion forum. You need to establish goals. What do I need to discuss with you for? What do I want to get from you? Okay? So you cannot just post to the discussion forum 5 to 10 pages of material for your learning partner to read. You're going to kill him or her. You have to be selective. You need to learn to be selective, to select information that you want your learning partner or teammate to respond. You cannot burden him or her with pages and upon pages of information. So you need to learn to be concise. Okay, then you need to understand who's going to read what in your team. All right? So the first thing is task analysis. You need to analyze your assignment. You need to ask what needs to be done. You need to understand how much time you have. You need to understand what resources you have. Definitely, human resources are very important. You, your learning partner, and your team pair members. Second, let's come to identifying resources. We've just gone through week number 4 last week. We learned the basic techniques of information literacy, which tells us to look up keywords from the databases, use sentence to Google it to find relevant information. So in this case, you have to check the reading list, all right, for week 5, week 6, and week 7. And then, what are you going to do next? Identifying resources and planning actions. Planning actions are very important because you don't have all the time you want. You just have 3 weeks time. 1 day gone, 1 day less. So 3 weeks time, how are you going to plan your actions? If you want to get things done before March the 12th, say March 11th, you need to plan ahead now. You have 3 weeks. So we need to have a meeting at least once a week. Meeting between the 2 of you in the pair, meeting between the 2 pairs in your team. But the challenge here is you do not have a team yet. you need to look for another pair to form a team. So you need to set some steps in your pair that before the end of next week, you must have a team. All right? So you can pair up with another pair before the end of next week. In other words, you have 1 week left to do teamwork. Right? You have 1 week left to do teamwork. Because at the end of next week, you have a team. You just have 1 week left, and then you have to turn things in. All right? So that is how you're going to plan the steps. And each one of you, with the experience of last week, to do your journal, to your peer discussion forum, and then you need to learn to use your experience to make things simpler for your work. And so, take a look at that. You need to understand what you know, your self-knowledge and skills. You need to understand what else you need to learn. Okay? And then we come to the third important step, taking actions. You plan the actions, someone else is going to execute the actions. And in a matter of teamwork, or in a matter of pair work, the two of you need to take different action steps. Taking actions means bringing the work done by individuals together. Reviewing the work, make sure it meets the goals. So if you look at that, you have to learn how to monitor the progress of each one's work. You also need to learn how to modify your action step when it is important. Now, all of these must be integrated into the works you're going to produce. And then, when it is not enough, you need to change. You need to change. That's why we say you need to evaluate your actions. You need to change your planning step so that you can meet the goals. I must tell you that sometimes we need to do things like this. When you finally realize that you cannot have enough time to do it, you just waste the question. Last semester, we have these options from the students. We say that, oh, if it's true, less time for you to complete the work that is due, can you suggest to combine the second learning contract and the third learning contract together? Okay? Because the third learning contract is completely teamwork. Starting from the third learning contract, you have a team. Okay? So all the work that could be accommodated by the team will become smooth enough. And then, when you combine the two learning contract, instead of 3 weeks, you have 6 weeks. You understand the meaning of that. But before you raise this proposal, you must have some kind of discussions within your peer. You must have a team form to take a look at the time allowed. And so, from now to the end of next week, I'm helping you to make sure you have a good start. Well, I cannot tell you how important it is for you to have discussions in class, real discussions to evaluate the work you do. Okay? All right, so these are the steps. You have to set goals. You need to understand the amount of time you have. You need to make sure you have an action plans. You must have discussions on when to ask for help. And in the process of doing that, you need to learn how to do evaluations of the work, and you need to learn how to revise your action step, and there will be a deadline before which you must raise the proposal. Can we combine the two contracts together? If everybody says yes, then the deadline to submit your artifact will not be on March the 12th, it will be on April the 2nd. Okay? Look at the important dates over there. But I do not want to let you lose. Meaning that before you try, you should not say no at the very beginning. You need to try at least for 1 week or 2 weeks to learn of the progress of your team. Okay? So that is something that is very important. Self-regulated learning means you know what you are doing this for and why you're doing it with proper resources and goals in mind. Okay? Having said that, allow me to congratulate on your work done this past week, particularly studying on Saturday through Sunday evening, morning. You can see the activity coming up from my pages. A lot of you submit your work very early in the morning, asking a lot of questions. Now it's time for me to invite you, if you have not done this, to complete this student feedback questionnaire for your learning contract number 1. When you click on this link, you'll be brought to the questionnaire. Before I came to this class this afternoon, I checked. About 15 of you have already done the questionnaire. That will be very good. But we have 41 students in this class. So may I invite those of you who have not done this questionnaire, use 10 minutes from now to finish it. Use your mobile device. Please come to this Moodle environment. Click on this particular questionnaire and complete it. I need your feedback because your feedback will become the basis for me to adjust according to your need, how we are going to proceed. I cannot force you to do something, okay? I need your feedback. So would you please come to this online environment with your mobile device now, complete this questionnaire. I'm going to report back to you the data collected, and I'm giving you my proper responses, okay? It's very important you understand why you need to complete 6 items in the first learning contract. They're basically expected skills I expect each one of you to develop by completing each of the learning artifacts. And then when you complete this questionnaire, you're giving me the feedback so that I understand your concerns, okay? All right, I give you 10 minutes time to complete the questionnaire, all right? So that is the questionnaire asking you for feedback on what you're doing. Is it consistent with general education's program intended learning outcomes? Are they consistent with the course learning objective? Are they also consistent with the course intended learning outcomes? Well, actually, I do not need them. It's too much. The echoes are so strong. Okay, and then you just need to pick a choice. Normally, I use a 5-1 Likert scale. Do you strongly disagree? Do you disagree? Neutral means like, agree, no disagree, agree, or strongly agree. Okay? Basically, you're helping me to understand your learning needs. So please help by doing this questionnaire in class, by going online to this questionnaire and complete it. All right? I hope at least I got 2/3 of you complete the questionnaire to give me enough information to see how to make this class tick. You know, the big challenge here is, for me, is the how to help you transition from a taught-to-learn student to learn-to-learn student, meaning that you could become your own teacher and help you learn something. All right. Ensure during the completions of the questionnaire, you may want to consult your fellow students to understand a little bit of their feelings, meaning that we can talk. Altogether, there are 32 or 33 questions, and most of the questions are just you need to pick a choice, okay? It's important that before we start the second milestone, we need to pause and look back to what you did and help answer some of your questions about your doubts, whatever it is. you get the questionnaire, if you get into the Moodle environment, just next to week number 1, there is something called upcoming events. And then there is something called student feedback questionnaire. Okay, it's going to be closed by 11:55 tonight, so you better do it now, so that I can report back the result to you as soon as tomorrow, and discuss about the result on Thursday. We have one speaker today, that is Karen. We're reserving enough time for you.
Is that today?
Oh, no, it's on Thursday. Yeah, great. All right. Oh, that's great. Let me take attendance during the time I give you the completed questionnaire. That's very important too. Johnson, thank you. You don't, thank you. Stop, you're here, thank you. Ken, thank you. Terry, not here yet, okay. Iris, thank you. Andy, thank you. Christina, thank you. Gabriella, thank you. Sonia, thank you. Tina, thank you. Cleo, thank you. Joey, thank you. Winnie, thank you. Xiao Wei, thank you. Danny, thank you. Nicholas, thank you. Gala, thank you. Blue, thank you. Karim, thank you. Ming Xian, I think it's not here yet. Louise, thank you. Raymond is not here yet, okay. Steve, thank you. Levine, not here today, okay. All right, the first page, I'm going to save it. Cerelia, not here. Muffin, thank you. Fred, thank you. Michelle, thank you. Fatima, thank you. Heidi, thank you. Karen, thank you. Erika, thank you. Yoga, thank you. Yambo, thank you. Winner, thank you. Ada, thank you. Steve Chen, thank you. Zia, thank you. Ken, are you Ken? No, wait. All right. Hannah, thank you. So let's say, are you Cerelia? Thank you. Okay, we finished taking attendance. I could slow down to answer your question in case you're many. Just raise your hand and come to a table. In the meantime, please help complete the questionnaire first. Actually, if you got your pair, that means your team pair is ready. You can tell me what your team pair is using this with Q&A hotline. But I'm expecting that by the end of next week, you use next week's Q&A hotline to give me a confirmed answer. Okay? So I will tell you this is more about this. So 3 more minutes to 10 minutes time to finish the questionnaire. Remember, if you cannot finish it in class, you have up to 11:55 tonight to get it done. It's very important that I got your feedback because I cannot talk to each one of you in class, so I'm expecting you giving me some feedback. All right? Okay, now, assuming that you've already done the questionnaire, let's reserve a little bit of the time we have, about 25 minutes time to carry on today's class. Now if you go back to week number 5, you know that the 2 topics we're going to help you understand this week is privacy and encryptions, and web attacks and internet vulnerabilities. Looks like a lot of things to do, but from another point of view, these issues can be put together. So what I'm going to help you is to give you some interesting story to start with, and those stories are mainly news items, which you can understand it by just reading the news. But just right before I introduce to you this topic, allow me to pause for a minute. Many of you will not be comfortable enough to come to this class to listen to a teacher like me who does not seem to be following up the lecture style. I'm not a lecture style teacher. As I told you, in this class, I'm here to help you learn to learn. In order to compensate for this, a little bit of your lack of expectations, if you come to the Moodle environment, you will discover that I have already done something which is good for the taught to learn student. All right? And this is called the learn and practice. If you go to the learn and practice link, okay, you will discover we've just gone through the first learning contract, so let me use the first learning contract, learn and practice link to show you this. You will discover that here I have given you what we call teacher-centered introductions of the topics in information security and privacy. And so if you want to learn the basics called what is meant by computer security, what is meant by cyber stalking, fraud and abuse, and also a technical term called the line of service attack, which is basically what the textbook would like to give you. You can come here, you can read the notes that I produced for you, click on those links. You can read and watch and learn from the PowerPoints I can produce for you. Systematically, you can discover that you have the teacher next to you to help you learn. But that is an approach often employed in the major courses. But in the context of our course, normally I start up with something simple. And the simple thing means I use everyday life example that you can reach through the newspaper, through the reading of the television news. So let's start with privacy issues, with a CNN story about online privacy. Now when you read the story, I want you to focus on 1 or 2 issues which could catch your eye and start thinking about what you can learn from those issues. Particularly speaking, we are learning privacy and we're learning a very technical term called encryptions. 3 minutes.
Pure. You know, if you think the photos and information you post on sites like Facebook and Twitter are safe, and CISG Reserve found privacy is dead, and what you post, even the innocent stuff, can end up hurting you.
Dick Hart put photos of his Hawaiian wedding on Facebook to share with close friends, but when he made mention of it on Twitter, he didn't know a link would be attached, giving more than 3,000 followers access to some rather intimate images.
We didn't think they were offensive in any way, but my wife didn't prefer for everybody to see those photos.
While his case was embarrassing, others are downright dangerous. Sarah Downey was horrified when a picture of her young daughter was hijacked from her Flickr account and used in a sexually suggested Portuguese language profile on Orchid.com, a social networking site.
It broke my heart. It broke my heart.
Downey posted a translation to warn other Flickr users, but then, she says, total strangers exploited the internet to find her phone number and, worse, her home address.
We would go to the grocery store and I'd wonder, has this person seen my daughter? Are they here, trying to find us, trying to, get close with my daughter?
Since then, Downey has tried to protect her private information. Has it worked? With her permission, we gave her name to Stephen Rambam, a private investigator who harvests information from the internet. In less than 90 seconds, he turns up 100 pages of possible links.
Frankly, anything you'd want to know about this young lady seems to be available on the web.
On sites like YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, and Twitter, more and more Americans are making their private information public. Put it together with public documents like newspaper accounts and property records, and a portrait emerges. Take Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Using free, publicly available information on the internet, a Fordham University Law School class came up with 15 pages of information, including Scalia's home address and phone number, even movies and foods he likes.
If we were willing to spend $100 for the project, we would have been able to acquire far more intrusive, far scarier information.
Private investigator Rambam says anytime you hit the send button, your information is no longer your own. He says your frequent flyer program, movie account, book purchases, even some searches can be tracked, stored, and sometimes sold.
I have a window into your soul. I know what you believe. I know what you think. I know who your family is. I know who your friends are. I know your politics.
Orchid.com says it has updated its policies and tools to find and remove fake profiles like the one of Sarah Downey's daughter. And Google says it gives customers the tools they need to protect their personal information. Many of us could be more careful. In addition, some privacy experts would like to see standardized and simplified website privacy policies or even government restrictions on secondhand use of private information. Stephen Rambam sees a lot of positives to having so much information on the internet and says the genie is already out of the bottle.
10 years from now, you're going to have a choice of getting used to minimal privacy or subleasing the Unabomber's County. That's going to be your two choices. The fact of the matter is there's nowhere to hide.
As Rambam puts it, privacy is dead. Get over it. Gene Meserve, CNN, Washington.
And we're pushing forward now with the next hour of CNN Newsroom with T.
I want you to put some thinking into what happened.
Sure.
As reported by this very interesting CNN news story. What happened? What do you get? What do you get? Now you can talk with your learning partner. What are the issues here? What have the persons done wrong? Or has the persons involved done anything wrong? What are the issues here? Privacy, definitely. Privacy stolen. Okay. Of course, you can see that the issues of privacy is dead. Get over it. That's been a very common issues that we talk about. And I want you to think a little bit about what the story is all about. How many stories are there to help you understand the issues of privacy? What the first story is, what the second story is. Do you remember anything? Yes. Of course, you don't need to worry much about this because the purpose of showing you the video is to help you to explore them together. What do you think?
I think there are two stories inside the video. One is about two adults. They go to a
Honeymoon.
yeah, and but at the time they enjoy themselves, other people take their pictures and upload into internet so that everyone can find their intimate action pictures on the internet. But actually, the person they don't want to be found on the internet. And the other story is about a little girl. She is, I think she did not do anything wrong, but she was uploaded to a sexual website, and all of her information can be found online, including her phone number, her house location, and her mother is really worried about the stranger will come to their house and do something bad for their daughters.
Yes, I think you've done a very good job in doing observations. That it's parents' contributions that help us make things simple. Star, what do you think to add on top of this?
I think without the permission to upload
picture. Yes, I think you're right. Without the permissions of the persons involved, if we upload the picture to the public area, it's illegal. Yeah, it's illegal. And the question is, what can we do about this? The little girl's mother was so much upset, you see that? Just don't understand why it happened. So, what can we do? Now, what can we do about this? Well, suggestions. Okay, let's say.
Today, with companies transmitting an increasing amount of information over the internet, more and more sensitive business data is put at risk. It's now easier than ever for you and your employees to send information from a laptop, phone, or other computer anywhere you go. And that also means that your data is more open to attack by hackers and thieves. Managed service providers and IT management companies use a variety of methods to help keep critical business data safe, including data encryption. These companies use data encryption as an advanced security tool to ensure the protection and confidentiality of your important information. So what exactly does encryption mean? Data encryption is a key part of any business's IT security plan. Simply put, encryption means to put data into a kind of secret code in order to protect it and disguise it. Only a person or a computer who understands the code will be able to decipher the information. In terms of data protection, encryption is vital in keeping your confidential information protected and secure. When you send sensitive information such as credit card or bank account numbers over the internet, you want that information to be inaccessible if it gets into the wrong hands. Therefore, encryption works to hide this information from anyone who shouldn't have access to it. Codes have been used for hundreds of years to send sensitive information. Today, computer-generated algorithms are guides for encryption. They provide a way to create a message and secure it much more effectively than a human-created code. When it comes to encryption, there are many different levels available. In general, the higher the encryption level or complexity of the code used, the safer your information will be. High encryption levels protect you against brute force attacks in which thieves or hackers use a computer program to simply try out various combinations of characters to see if they're able to crack the code. Higher levels of encryption increase the number of possibilities that must be tried to access a particular document, account, or file. So, 128-bit encryption is much more secure against brute force attack than a 40-bit encryption, and a 256-bit encryption is stronger than 128-bit. When it comes down to it, data encryption provides an important layer of protection for a business's data. Encryption technology is available for both on-site and off-site storage, providing peace of mind and security for data regardless of where it's located or what happens to it. Working with a professional IT services company like ours will help ensure your data is properly encrypted. Contact us today to learn more about keeping all of your critical business information protected and secure.
Thank you. We will use the service later. Obviously, it's a very good lesson we need to pick up from a company like this. They help you to see the situations of concern in a way that we have to be very sensitive in the use of our private information. Let me use an example that we each of us have to face today. You were given an email account when you were admitted to the university. And then you use the email account. Normally, there's some terms of service you need to agree with before you actually use your email account, be it from the university or be it from Google Mails. Okay, have you ever read the terms of service? All right. Okay, so now the question is, do you understand that somehow you're not the only person who can read your email? I know that we write email. I know that we are supposed to be persons who's going to keep it secret. But in the practical world, your emails are kind of being managed by the company.
So when you use the service provided by the company, people in the company, particularly in the administrator's positions, they actually have the privilege to go into your email account and take a look at your email. Because of that, when criminal offenses happened, when there is a need to look into where you have been, the police department, with a court order, can go to a particular company to unlock your account to see the records of communication with other people. And so those people in charge of the company's management of those IT resources have actually the privilege to take a look at our emails. All right? In a similar vein, when you use the university email account, our colleagues in the ICT department who are in charge of managing the email could actually read your email. So how can we prevent things happen? Do you understand the meaning of privacy? So the meaning of privacy means it's a kind of agreement that people who use a service understand that there's no such thing as absolute privacy because your work has to be managed. But there will be something called principles, agreement, or ethical standard for a particular person in a particular position. Not to read anybody's emails haphazardly without authorizations. Okay? Normally it's called, it's an environment which binds people to do this and not to do that. But technically speaking, that person in that position has the ability to do it. Okay? Has the convenience to do it, better say. So you understand the tricky thing about privacy. Well, the second thing that we try to enforce, a layer of protection for the people concerned, even though we know that people have the technical ability to do it, is the idea of encryptions. So even though we know that in a particular system, there are people who are in the positions of management who can really unlock and read the private data, we consider something called a security policy to disable those people to read our data easily. That is, we have the key to lock our data on our own. Okay? Do you have the experience of using a safe box in a bag? A safe box. In Chinese is 保险箱. Alright? So when you use a safe box in a particular bag, the bag will give you a key. And normally your key is not the only key that is needed to open the safe box. It's another key from the company. Okay? The two keys must be put there and then they return and then the door will open. So the idea of data encryptions with the key that has to be kept by the owner of that piece of data must be presented in order to unlock the data. Now that is an idea of privacy and technique to enforce privacy, but does it really mean that they cannot do it, unlock it? The hacker can always do it without surprises, all right? So it's very interesting to give you this first lesson. All right, so we have 6 minutes left. So let's see. Okay, can we go on the second part in less than 6 minutes? Oh, that's good.
Historically, encryption was widely used only by the military. But with the advent of the internet, almost everybody needs it. Encryption is a way to ensure privacy by changing your online messages into sort of a secret code. Most web browsers automatically encrypt text when connecting to a secure server. That is a web address beginning with HTTPS. The messages or files are scrambled as they travel in between computers, but then the message is decrypted when it arrives at its destination. So if you bought something online, the sensitive information like your address, credit card, or phone number is usually encrypted. But not all the information exchanged online is encrypted, and not all encryption methods are created equal. Like 64-bit encryption used to be all the rage, but nowadays 120-bit is the standard. And even that will surely change and get better as time goes on. And it should. Unencrypted internet exchanges are not only accessible by virtually anyone, but they can be available for years, and possibly on servers that could change ownership or become compromised eventually. So it might sound mysterious, but encryption is your friend. I'm Holly for Tech News Daily.
I think it's good enough. I hope that when you go home, you go back and read the third part, okay, to make sure that it helps you to understand the meaning behind this. And of course, if you're interested, this is an excellent resources to hear someone else telling you the stories about this in a conference and in the context of workshops. Okay, I think that's it for today's to kick off this week's web privacy and encryptions. And on Thursday, we're coming to web attacks and internet vulnerabilities. Okay, I see you back here on Thursday. Kindly complete the questionnaire before the end of today. All right, so kindly consider which other pair from this classroom will become your team pair, and hopefully each one of you will have the team identity before the end of next week. Okay, that's it for today's CISG113, Section 1, Information Security and Privacy, day number 9. Okay.